Well, good morning and welcome to North Star Church Online. My name is Josh Webb and I'm your online pastor, and I'm so glad you decided to join us today. Listen, we have a lot of reasons that people come to church online. For some of you, you may go here to our Kennesaw campus and maybe you or a loved one is sick today, and so you're having to stay home and take care of them, and this allows you to be part of your church family. And then for others, maybe you travel. You haven't had a chance to even be home in a while, and this is the one chance that you get to kind of get into the Word of God and kind of help you refocus. And then we also know that there are others of you that don't even live anywhere around Kennesaw, Georgia, and for some reason, maybe there's someone you know that's here, but you found yourself gravitated to this spot. And we just want to welcome all of you. And the main thing we want to tell you this morning is that no matter how you got here, this is more than a building. This is more than messages and songs that you're going to hear this morning. North Star is a community of people who found themselves encountering something that was so powerful that they had to investigate it. And that thing is Jesus Christ. And that's what we want to welcome you to encounter this morning. So this morning, as you're actually interacting, we want you to do more than just watch. Actually talk to people. Actually get involved. If you see someone that posts a need, maybe you can pray for them, or maybe you can post a need and one of our chat hosts can talk to you. But either way, we want you to participate. This is a community, and it's something that you can actually do to get more involved in the church, but also get a little closer to God. And that's how we want you to use this morning. So no matter how you got here, we just want to welcome you to North Star Church Online.
Well, good morning, North Star. We're so glad you're here. If you're glad to be here this morning, make some noise. Come on, come on, come on. I'd love for you to stand up. We're going to sing a little bit. Join us. Here we go.
Have you ever seen the wonder in the glimmer of first sight? As the eyes begin to open and the blindness meets the light. If you have so say, I see the world in light, I see the world in wonder, I see the world in life, bursting in living color. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. Have you ever seen the wonder in the air, second light? Having come out of the waters with the whole world left behind. If you have soul, say, I see the world in light, I see the world in wonder, I see the world in light, bursting in living color. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. I see the world in grace, I see the world in gospel, I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. I'm walking in the wonder. You're the wonder in the world, turning wilderness to wonder. If you have soul, say, I see the world in love, I see the world in freedom, I see the Jesus way. You're the wonder in the world. ashamed to say so. I see the Jesus way, and I'm walking in the light. I see the world in light. I see the world in wonder. I see the world in light, bursting in every color. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. I see the world in grace. I see the world in gospel. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. I'm walking in the wonder. You're the wonder in the world, turning wilderness to wonder. If you have soul, say, I see the world in love. I see the world in freedom. I see the Jesus way. You're the wonder in the world.
You're the wonder in the wild. Yeah. Lift up a shout of praise this morning, North Star. Come on, yeah. Sing this out this morning with us. Come on. Amazing love that welcomes me, the kindness of mercy that bought with blood wholeheartedly my soul undeserving. Sing, God, you're so good. Come on. God, you're so good. Yes, He is. Oh, God, you're so good. Oh, God, you're so good. You're so good to me.
Behold the cross, age to age, hour by hour. The dead are raised, the sinners saved, the work of your power. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. Oh God, you're so good. You're so good to me.
God, you're so good. Sing it out this morning, declare it. Come on. God, you're so good. God, yes, you are. Oh, God, you're so good. You're so good to me. I am blessed, I am called, I am healed, I am whole, I am saved in Jesus' name. Sing it out. Highly favored, anointed, filled with your power for the glory. Jesus' name. I am blessed, oh, I am blessed, I am called, I am healed, I am whole, I am saved in this morning. Come on. Should this life bring suffering, Lord, I will remember. Come on. What Calvary has bought for me, both now and forever. Won't you sing this out this morning? God, you're so good. Come on, church. Oh, God, you're so good. Oh, God, you're so good. So good. Oh, God, you're so good. You're so good to me. Sing it again. Oh, God, you're so good. Yes, you are, God. Oh, God, you're so good. So good. Oh, God, you're so good. You're so good to me. Come on. Oh, God, you're so good. Oh, God, you're so good. You're so good. Oh, God, you're so good. You're so good to you're so good to me, God. Sing it out. God, you're so good. In every season, you're good. Oh, God, you're so good. Oh, God, you're so good. You're so good to me. Lift up a shout of praise for a good God this morning. Amen. Come on. God, thank you so much for being so good. Thank you for the fact that we can trust you in every season, in every circumstance. With every step we take, we can trust you, God, because you're good and because you love us. And I thank you so much this morning for that love. Thank you for every heart in this room. Pray that you be with us as we go through the rest of our time here this morning. God, we love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you guys for singing with us. You can check out this video.
Good morning, North Star. It is so great to see all of you guys today. I don't get to be there in person today because today I'm with our medical team down in Haiti, and God is just doing some amazing things on this trip, and we're so excited about what God's doing here. We're so glad you made your way in today. If I've never met you before, my name is Mike, and it is an honor to welcome you here to North Star. Our mission at North Star is to help people find their way home. How do you find your way home? Maybe it's a church home, which we would love, but even more importantly, it's that spiritual family and that spiritual home that we watch hundreds and hundreds every year connect with through that relationship with Jesus Christ. Well, today I want to ask our hospitality team to come on down, and this is our opportunity. We get to give back to the Lord. You know, what happens when you give? Sometimes you don't see all the different families your money intersects with. This, over the past few weeks, we've had a great time through our intermission event, through our barbecue bash, caring for the needs of our special needs families. And what a joy that is to love on these families and to let them know that we love them and God loves them. And you get to be a part of that. Every time you give, you get to be a part of that. So today, as those baskets are passed here in just a second, or you're online and you click that give button, your money makes a difference, and your money helps people feel that love that Jesus has for them. So hospitality team, you can get started, or if you're watching online, you can click the give button that's there. You know, we've got some great next steps here at North Star for people to get connected. Our goal is for you to never just sit in a seat or sit at home and watch. We want to see you get connected. One of the events we've got coming up for you to get connected through in our next steps is our couples checkup. Daniel and Bonnie have a passion to help couples not only have a marriage that survives, but a marriage that thrives. If that's something you're interested in coming up here in July, and you're going to see the dates listed there in your app or in your worship guide and listed here on the screen, if that's something you're interested in, go to our website or go to our app, get signed up, because you don't want a marriage that just makes it. You want to have a marriage that your kids grow up and want to have one just like yours. And Daniel and Bonnie are doing such an amazing job loving on and pouring into our couples. And so I hope you'll get surrounded by some other great couples and get signed up for this awesome event. We also have our membership class coming up. Maybe you've been coming to North Star for a while, you went to the newcomers and you're like, all right, I'm ready to make this place home. This is going to be coming up at the end of July. All the information's in your worship guide again, on the app and on the website. You can get signed up there to be a part of membership class. Jump on the bus, man. We would love to have you join us as we continue to reach our community for Jesus Christ. And it's been amazing 21 years we've been together, but the next 21 are going to be equally as amazing. Well, today we wrap up our At the Movie series. Chris Bogus, our next gen pastor, is going to be sharing with us about the armor of God. We're going to be using the movie Gladiator. Lord only knows what you're in store for. You may have an upright armadillo walking out on the stage this morning. I don't know what to expect. You don't either, but I can promise you this, it's going to be good. So sit back, settle in for a great morning at North Star.
Now, if everybody will welcome our upright armadillo. I'm just kidding. I don't have an upright armadillo. I tell you, you bring one upright armadillo to a party, no one will let you forget it for the rest of your life. I'm just kidding. As far as you know. But today, we're talking about Gladiator today. One of my favorite movies. A lot of people's favorite movie because it won like 5 Academy Awards and Best Picture, Best Actor, stuff like that. But I've watched it a couple of times, like leading up to this, kind of to refresh myself, you know, get it back fresh in mind. And it really does stand up. Like, there's some movies that I watched years ago, and I watch them again, and I'm like, yeah. But this one, it's so good. And if you haven't watched it, I'm sorry for you, but I'm going to spoil some of it today because but it's a great story. The idea of the story is that you've got this guy who, at the beginning of the movie, is a general in the Roman army. And he's got everything, but he's ready to give it up and go, like, be with his family. And that's all he wants. And it gets all taken away from him just in a series of events. He ends up a slave and a gladiator. And this part, the scene that we just showed a second ago, that's when his first time in the arena in Rome. And the cool part about that is what happens afterward. He was supposed to get killed in that scene. One more time that he was supposed to die, but instead he flipped the script on everybody and got the guys in the arena to work with him, and they all survive. And then afterward, he comes face to face with his nemesis, and he does that famous line, you know, where he says who he is, where he says, I'm the father to a murdered child, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. And you're like, and then you realize you've still got like an hour left in the movie. Like, what's going to happen now? I'm telling you, if you haven't watched it, you should go home and watch it. It's funny because when that movie came out, I was a youth pastor at another church, and, you know, it was an R-rated movie, and, like, you can't go see an R-rated movie. You're a pastor, you can't see an R-rated movie. You know, I'd have to sneak into Blockbuster with sunglasses and a hoodie if I wanted to try to rent an R-rated movie. So And so two of the kids in my youth group, though, they were seniors in high school, and they were like, "Hey, Chris, we want to take you out to lunch, and we want to just, like, you've done a lot in our lives. We want to do something for you." And so we went out to eat, and they said, "We have a surprise for you." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." And they took me to Gladiator, and like we're walking into the theater, and I'm like, oh no. Not only am I going to see an R-rated movie, I'm going to see it with some of my kids. I'm done. My ministry's over. And then I watched it, and I was like, the whole movie, like they looked over, they said, "You were crying in the movie." I'm like, I know, this was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And so I just loved the movie. And I love anything like swords and armor, that kind of stuff. I always have. That's always been my thing. Like, I remember as a little kid, like sticks hitting trees, fighting against trees, because I didn't have a lot of friends. But so I would fight whatever wouldn't hit me back. And, but I loved that stuff. I loved it growing up. I loved, that was my favorite part of church even, right? Like David and Goliath. How cool is that? Cutting off a giant's head. That's awesome. Like battle scenes and things like that. And I loved the passage in Ephesians, the passage about the armor of God, right? I remember when I was probably 4th grade, and this guy came. I'm really old. No one even does this anymore. But this guy came and did a chalk drawing of the armor of God, right? And he's talking about it as he's doing it, and it was really cool. It was like life-size chalk drawing of this guy in armor. And if you memorize the armor of God passage and you said it back the next Sunday, they said the first one to say it back would get the chalk drawing. I was the second one to say it back, so I didn't get the chalk drawing, but I did memorize it in King James. And so there was, I got something out of it. But that passage always like captivated me. And some of you may not be familiar with it, so I thought we'd kind of start as a jumping off point. We'd kind of read through it, just so you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that passage, the armor of God. So this is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 13, and it's through 18. So we're going to read it together. "Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, having done all to stand firm." And stand firm, remember that. "Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and the shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish the flaming darts of the evil one. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints." And so I love that passage. I hope you guys like it too. When I was a kid, though, I had this image that it put in my mind of me wearing armor, like medieval armor, right? This big sword in my hand. It may have been flaming. I don't know. It was a big sword, though. And a shield with a cross on it, definitely a cross. And my helmet with like the feathers in the back, like, and the wind gently ruffling my cape. I know the cape isn't in the armor of God, just go with me. And it's like, and I'm standing on a hillside, and then this like little scraggly demon comes out of the woods, and it's like, "I'll get you." And I'm like, "Come at me." And he's like, and I just swat him down and like kick him and grind his head into the ground. And like, I'm the hero, right? And that's how I pictured this passage. And I always had that in my mind. But what I've realized over the years is that the Bible has some stuff in it that sometimes when we read the Bible, we take for granted what it's saying. Without it doesn't actually say it, but we think it says it. Does that make sense? We don't understand necessarily the culture in which it was being said, so we misunderstand the whole passage, right? It's kind of like when I say something, when I talk to middle schoolers and I talk to them about dialing a phone, and they picture this. And they go, I don't understand, what does dialing it have to do with anything, right? Now, some of you that are older like me, you remember phones that you had to, right? That just went the wrong way. Anyway, but like you remember dialing a phone. But so when I say dialing a phone, to them it means something like it's confusing to them. When we think of armor today, we don't really see people in armor. I mean, armor is a tank, right? So we don't see people in armor, so we kind of think about medieval stuff because that's kind of comfortable for us, right? And as Americans, we think of ourselves as like the rugged individuals, right? That's what we prize in American culture. The one who can stand up on his own, right? Stand on his own 2 feet and be, and so I think what's happened is a lot of us have translated that passage into my image that I had, the idea of being a hero. And I'm not, believe me, I'm not like faulting you if that's the way you've thought about it. And if you want to keep thinking about it, feel free. I mean, that's fine. I know people who talk about like, I pray the armor of God on every morning, you know, so I can go out and do battle. And that's cool. I don't want to take that away from you, but I would like to kind of present the armor to you in its historic kind of context, and maybe you'll understand something about the armor that you never did before. And that's what my hope for you. So if you guys will indulge me, I'd just like to share some of this with you. Is that okay? Like, I'm going to be all weird and nerdy and stuff, but because I've got the full armor of God up here, and this is Roman armor. So during the time of the first century, when Paul's writing this, everyone would have been very familiar with what a Roman soldier looked like. I mean, they were everywhere. If you lived in the Roman Empire, you saw Roman soldiers. They were police. They were on the streets. They were doing things. And here's the other thing, too. You would probably have seen them in battle before, because they didn't have Netflix. Like, you needed entertainment. You'd go out on the hillside when the Roman army was drilling, and you'd watch them drill. You know, because it was cool. And the precision that they had. And then on top of that, let's say the Romans came and they had to put down an uprising or something, you might have watched them fight. Because a lot of times a battle would be happening and people would be up on the hillside watching the battle, like entertainment, right? And it wasn't just entertainment, it was also CNN. It was also their news, right? Because they needed to know if the Romans were going to win or lose, so they'd know if they needed to run or not, right? So it mattered. So they would have seen Romans fight before. And so this armor would have been familiar to them, and its functions would have been familiar to them. So when we see it, we're like, oh, that looks, kind of like an upright armadillo. But we don't understand it right. So I want to help you understand it. So let's look at the different parts. We'll start with the helmet. This helmet is called a Gallic helmet. It's a specific style of helmet that was popular around the 1st century. It was standard issue. Okay, this is actually a masterpiece of like warfare at the time. So it's got this neck piece on the back that protects the back of your neck, but it doesn't lay on the neck, so it allows air to get up under and circulate into the helmet so you don't overheat even when it's hot outside. The little ear flaps here, these little brass ear flaps, protect, so if a sword comes down the side, it won't cut right through your ear. It'll cut into that, and that'll slow it down. A helmet like this also sometimes would have marks that would show what unit you were in, things like that. But this was standard. If you were a legionary in the Roman Empire, you wore this helmet. And so when you were arrayed in a phalanx and you were all standing in rows, you could tell exactly who belonged there and who didn't. If you were a centurion, you had a crest that went sideways so they could know exactly where the centurion, the one who's in command of the century, where he was standing. So this is identity for a Roman soldier. When they can't see any other part of your armor, any other thing, they can see your helmet. So think about it for us as Christians, salvation, we have a new identity. We put on this helmet that identifies us as belonging to Christ. And even everything about this matters. Like even this little cool thing right here, it's like, what is that? It's not a good sun visor, it's too high. This one little piece of metal was made to counter one specific weapon called a falcata, which is a sword that has all its weight towards the front. A falcata is made to split helmets. An overhand blow with a falcata would split the helmet right down the middle. Your head would be inside, so it would actually split your head too. But the helmet would go first, and it would go all the way through. And like a falcata with a regular helmet could literally split their head all the way down to their neck. Like, boom. That one little piece of folded metal provides resistance enough so that the rest of the helmet, plus this little brass like wings here, that will stop the falcata, provides resistance. So this was the main group that used the falcata were the Gauls. So this is a Gallic helmet to fight against Gauls, right? So that's the helmet. Let me share, these are amazing. These are Roman sandals. Roman soldiers were expected to be able to march 20 miles a day with full kit. Full kit for them might be up to 180 pounds of gear. So they could march 20 miles a day, 180 pounds of gear, go to bed, get up, and do it again the next day. And they were expected to be able to do that. Now do you see why these were the most formidable fighters on the face of the earth? I mean, anybody that can do that. But then think about how hard that would be on sandals. So they have these sandals that have these hobnails in the bottom so that when they're walking on the paved Roman roads, their sandals won't wear out even if they're marching 20 miles a day. On top of that, these hobnails give you really good footing on uncertain ground, and they're also great for stomping the face of your enemy. The other cool thing, and I didn't know this until recently, but the way Roman, see how these are cut out? These sandals are cut out in places? The way they're cut out is intentional. They're cut out in the places where you would most likely wear blisters. So in the parts where the sandal would wear against your foot, there's no sandal to wear against your foot. So they're made so that a marcher who's marching every day, won't get blisters. It also is ventilated so that your feet don't get soggy and you don't get trench foot. So like your feet can breathe and you'll last for a long time. So these sandals are amazing. The preparation of the gospel of peace. They were ready to take the message wherever they had to go. The breastplate, this is called lorica segmentata. Now, in the time of Jesus, just a few years before, this was cutting-edge stuff, right? But by the time of Paul, pretty much all Romans would have been wearing the segmentata. This was an amazing advancement. Before, they used a thing called the lorica hamata, which was chainmail. It was great. You can make a bunch of them. They last for a long time. The problem is chainmail, blunt force trauma will break ribs or break a shoulder blade or a clavicle, things like that. So if somebody came at you with a club or a blunt weapon, they could do a lot of damage. But this will absorb that and diffuse it. So wherever they hit you, you're not even going to feel it, probably. I like this as a symbol for breastplate of righteousness because I talk about righteousness. Righteous, it means you do right things, right? And it's not one right thing that you do. It's the right things that you do over and over that make layers that protect your heart, right? So you do the right thing so that you can protect your heart from getting hard. And so that's breastplate of righteousness. I love that. Then we have the shield of faith. Now, a Roman shield is called a scutum. It's bigger than this. This is actually a Roman cavalry shield. And so it was made to be used from horseback. But the scutum is actually bigger than this. It was a huge shield. But even though it's big, it's not super heavy because the Romans were amazing. They came up with plywood. The first plywood that we know of in history was a Roman invention. So they'd take thin layers of wood, they'd run the grain different directions and glue it, making it super strong, super light, great for shields, right? And so this was part of the kit that every Roman soldier would carry. And these shields were great. They're not so great if you're fighting by yourself, but in a phalanx, locked shield by shield, they're really good. And we'll come back to that in a minute, but that's the shield. And the shield, I like that the shield protects you, but it also protects half of the person next to you, right? So you're protecting yourself, but the way you're holding the shield, it's only going to come to about right here on you, and then it's the leftover is going to protect the next person, and the person over here, their shield's going to protect me, right? So as long as we stay straight, we're okay. And then we have the sword. This is what's called a gladius, a Roman sword. This is a thrusting sword. It's not made for slashing, and it's fairly short. Now, a short sword like this isn't great if you're going to go toe-to-toe with someone in an arena or on a battlefield where you have lots of room to move. But on a battlefield where the quarters are tight and the enemy is pushing against you, this is great because you can maneuver the tip wherever you want and push it right in between the armor, right? Or what they would do is they would use it, they would do a thing called the thresher, where they'd rest the sword here, they'd rest the shield on the ground, and they'd just let the enemy come and push the sword, right? So I'm not doing too much to do that. I'm letting their momentum rip them to pieces. Pretty cool. But when they do that, as long as we're all working together, that works. So now I've gone through all the cool pieces of the armor, and now I have the stupid one. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? The belt of truth. I mean, I remember reading this when I was a kid and being like, seriously, I wear a belt. It should be the belt of pant holding up. Like, that's not the belt of truth. It's a weird piece of armor, right? And I never heard anybody explain it very well. Every time I'd hear a pastor talk about the armor of God, I mean, they'd come up with reasons for it, but I would always be like, I don't know. Like, for example, the first one I ever heard was the guy said, the belt is what all the other armor is connected to. So you put on the belt so that the rest of the armor can stay in place. That's stupid. This isn't going to hold that in place. I mean, it's dumb. I can see that. I'm a 9-year-old kid going, yeah, that doesn't work for me, right? So then I heard people say that, like, so this is, see, it has those pieces that hang down, and the Romans would wear this tunic, right? And so that they would wear this belt so that if they sat down, that it would keep the tunic in place so it wouldn't, like, fly up in the wind, like Marilyn Monroe, right? And so on some level I thought, okay, why isn't it then the belt of, like, humility or modesty? It's the belt of truth. That doesn't make any sense. And then number two, just so you realize, that's putting American values on a Roman soldier. Like, they really weren't that worried about being naked in public. Like, they had games where they would be, I mean, they wouldn't have worried about the belt. They'd have just been like, whatever. Like, they don't care. Why that? I don't know, it's on the internet again. Sorry. But, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered to them, right? And then I also heard somebody say, well, they would put, like, things that showed what campaigns they were in. And that's true, some of them did, but again, so, hey, check out where I've been. Like, that's weird to me. It doesn't make any sense. And then something cool happened. I saw these guys doing reenactment, and when they were doing Roman reenactment, I saw how they used the belt, and dude, all the armor changed for me. Everything changed. So check this out. When you're in combat, you get tunnel vision. The adrenaline surge and everything causes you to not be able to see very well. But for a Roman, they need to be able to work together and know who's around them. So check out, let's look back at what Maximus said in the arena. He called everybody out and he said, stick with me and you'll survive, right? You'll live. So that's right after you can see that first chariot coming out. And some of them are starting to gather towards the center, and some of them are saying, no, I'm good on my own, right? Now, in a few seconds, in a few minutes in this movie, you're going to watch those that say, yeah, I'm good on my own, get ripped to pieces, spears in their chest, arrows in their leg. They're just going to get torn up. But the rest do this. Check this out. And you hear Maximus saying, lock shields, hold fast. Lock shields, hold fast. See, because the power of a Roman soldier is when his shields are locked with the soldiers next to him and they're working together. What they're about to do, in a second, Maximus is going to say, diamond, diamond. And when he does, the ones on the backside over here are going to step out and lean their shields down, and the ones on the front side are going to step that direction too, which will make the chariot, which you're seeing from the chariot view, the chariot is going to have to move out around them. It's going to hit and flip, and they are going to tear those people apart. Because even though they're only human, they're only men against this huge, heavy chariot, when their shields are locked, it exponentially increases the strength that they have. And so they flip the chariot. All right, so in Roman combat, the way you're strong is when your shield is locked into the shield next to you. The problem is tunnel vision means I can't see the people next to me. So I can't see if I'm in line unless I turn my head. Every time I turn my head, I'm at risk to the people right in front of me who are trying to kill me. So that's stupid. If I'm doing this, I'm going to die, right? The second rank grabs my belt. If I step too far forward, they hold me. If I'm not moving forward and the people around are, they push me. The belt of truth is accountability. The belt of truth is, I can't see anything except what I'm fighting. I need someone to keep me straight while I'm fighting. You're not an army without accountability. You're a soldier on a hill by yourself. I believe that Paul wrote this passage because he knew and he knows, and we know, if we're being honest, that we have an enemy. So pull out your notes real quick. We're going to fill in the notes. Just got a few minutes. I know some of you were like, hey, there were blanks. I was given blanks coming in. I'm going to fill them all in, all right? Settle down. So look at this. Look at that first Peter 5:8 there. Read, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. You have an enemy. Your enemy is real, and he wants to destroy you, and he can. I know some of you think you're stronger than the devil. You're not. He's more powerful than you. And so if you're standing on that hillside waiting for the little gremlin to come out so you can stomp it, it's not a gremlin. It's like a dragon. It's like an ancient dragon. It's like a 40-foot tall fire-breathing dragon. He's a roaring lion. He wants to destroy you. If you don't believe you have an enemy, then he's already won. All right, look at this, though. He has two goals. Two goals. One, he wants to fight you by yourself. He wants you to think you can take him so that you'll come out on the battlefield wearing this armor alone. And let me just throw this out. If you come out on the battlefield in this armor of God that God has provided to you, your shield is way too big for single combat. You can't wield it. Your sword is way too short. You don't have enough reach. Your armor only protects you from here to here. It doesn't protect your legs at all. It's a huge target. If you go to do single combat with this armor, you're done. He wants you alone. And the second thing is he wants to push you. Look at this. He wants to push you in his direction. Remember back in the beginning when it talked about the armor of God? It says, in that day having done everything to stand. See, because here's what it looks like to win in a Roman battlefield. What it looks like to win is to not move. You hold your position and you let them break against you like water and you thresh them. And the more they come, the more you fight. And Romans would take a break every few minutes. They'd blow a flute, and the front rank would drop back, and the second rank would take their place. So every hour you're only fighting like 6 minutes because you're not made to fight all the time. You have to have other people that back you up. But because of that, oh gosh, a Roman legion, 1,000 men, could stand up to 15,000 for a full day and not even break a sweat. Well, they would sweat, it's hot. But they could do it, no problem. Because they worked together. And they would stand in a place and they wouldn't move. And I think it's interesting that in the armor it doesn't say that having done everything to push through the enemy lines and break down their barriers, having done everything to slaughter all the enemies. It doesn't say that. It says having done everything to stand. Because Paul knew that. That's what Romans do. They take the battlefield, boom, and they stand. Anybody can come against them that wants to, and they're not going to move. Right? And look at this. That's why God planned for us to be an army. See, God didn't plan for you to fight by yourself. I know sometimes, like, you feel like you're going to get up in the morning and you're going to pray on that armor, and that's cool. But if you pray on that armor and walk out on the battlefield by yourself, you're going to die. And that's why at the end, he doesn't say, he says, pray for each other. Lift up all the saints, right? Because we're made to be an army. We're not made to be heroes. We're made to work together. We're made to lock shields. And whatever comes out of the gate, we have a better chance to beat it together. Let's pray. Lord, I come to you this morning, and Lord, I really believe there are people in this room who have been fighting their battles alone. And Lord, as they're on the field, they feel this sea of enemies around them, and they just can't even see the way out. And Lord, I just pray that today they'll realize that that's not how they're meant to fight. Lord, that they're meant to lock shields with other people. And Lord, that they're meant to give other people the right to grab them by the belt and say, no, you're going too far, or push them forward and say, no, you need to go farther. They need accountability. And Lord, I just pray that right now, today, that we'll begin to think of ourselves not just as lone fighters, Lord, but as an army. Lord, you made us to be part of a greater whole. And Lord, I thank you for the fact that you didn't leave us on a battlefield surrounded by enemies alone, that you put us on a battlefield surrounded by enemies with an army that could stand against anything that comes against us. Not because we're powerful alone, but because we're powerful together. Lord, thank you for all that you're doing in and through us and all that you're going to do. And I pray that as we go forth from this place, we'll go forth as an army. In Jesus' name, amen.
This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battle. Oh, this is how I fight my battle. This is how I fight my battle. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Sing it out. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Yeah. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. 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 Oh, this is how I fight my battles. 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 It may look, sing it out. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Yeah. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Oh, God. Oh, this we know. We will see the enemy run. This we know. We will see the victory come. We'll hold on to every promise you ever made. Jesus, you are unfailing. This we know, this we know. We will see the enemy run. This we know. We will see the victory come. We'll hold on to every promise you ever made. Jesus, you are unfailing. Jesus, you are unfailing. Jesus, you are unfailing. Lift up a shout of praise this morning. Come on. Amen. Yeah. Man, thank you guys so much for being here with us this morning at North Star. You guys are dismissed. I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Well, we want to thank you so much for joining our online campus this morning. If there's something that's reached you or it's maybe put a little tug on your heart to take a next step, we would love to know about it. The easiest way you can let us know is there's a Connect tab at your lower right. And if you fill that out, you can let us know a little bit about yourself, give us some contact info. We won't bother you, but we just want to really let you know what your next steps could be. And then if you're in the Kennesaw area and you're watching this online, we love to give you this kind of content. But one thing that we know is that content with community is stronger. And so we want to really encourage you to actually make it here to the Kennesaw campus and worship beside your fellow believers. And so if you're here next Sunday, go ahead and plan a time to actually come here for the Sunday service. Well, it's been great to be with you today, and we'll see you next week at North Star.
You may be thinking of visiting North Star Church on a Sunday, and if so, we want to let you know what to expect once you arrive. First off, we want North Star to feel like home when you arrive on campus. You'll be greeted by warm smiles, friendly faces of people who were once in your shoes, helping you navigate your first visit. Be sure to turn on your flashers when you arrive so our team can direct you to the designated parking area for first-time guests. We have two distinct worship venues on Sunday morning. The first is the Compass Auditorium, where you'll experience a live message each week and music that's considered loud and electric. Our second venue is in the True North building. The Sunday message is broadcast on a large center screen and is designed for those wanting a more intimate worship experience. We also have something special just for your kids on Sundays. From age 2 up to middle school, kids will enjoy age-specific worship and biblical teaching from some of the most talented singers, storytellers, and teachers around. During your visit, please let us know more about yourself by completing the tear-off portion of your worship guide and bringing it to our guest services desk in the Compass lobby. We really do want to help you find your way home to North Star. We'll see you Sunday.